Welcome to the Boston's Big Four podcast. Cast. New news about music and sports every week, sometimes.
Welcome back. Another day, another episode. Episode 56 of Boston's Big Podcast, featuring another special guest, Leedz Edutainment, Ned Wellbery, one of the great promoters in Boston, hip-hop promoters.
I would
Definitely
say the great promoter. I don't know of any other.
I would say the elite promoter. Wu-Tang Clan, Kendrick Lamar, Wiz Khalifa, Mac Miller, Freddie Gibbs, Joe Budden, Conway the Machine. I'm just reading off that shirt that you made. But yeah, the resume is pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're definitely happy to have you on.
There's a lot going on in terms of live music right now. So we have anyways, it's an interesting feat promoting, running shows. I know you managed at the Middle East for a little while. So just all that entails is a 3-hour podcast on its own. So not only that, we have a quarantine going on, which affects that business pretty much to a standstill. And I'm first of all curious, how are the people in your immediate community dealing with that? And is there anything in sight that you can see as far as like this changing in the future? Anyone, any type of like, will shows be different in the future?
I don't know. It's everyone I know that's, in the music business, working in venue side of things is laid off, quit, fired, whatever. Completely out of work.
Okay.
The problem is with something like this is because of the nature of the business and booking shows that you have, you do it far out, right? So it's like right now I'd be booking the fall, or booking the summer, and everyone's just freezing that process. So even if we were to say, hey, May 1st, you can go back out to your life and go to venues and all like that, you'd have still a huge layover time for months and months and months before the shows would start kicking in again. Because from what I've seen, everything is pretty much being canceled or rescheduled to the fall. I mean, they are pushing some things back to the summer, but I don't know if that's true. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
right.
And
nobody really knows when this is going to end. So
no, I mean, this doesn't end. I don't think this ends until they figure out a way to treat the virus better and people don't die and find a cure, a vaccine or something. I don't think anyone has a clear answer on that. So, right. I mean, and even if we go back, everything's going to change. I mean, I think the way people look at each other, talk to each other, get used to it. I mean, there's going to be a level of change that happens to this. And who knows, this technology thing about doing live events on your, these in-studio things that everyone's doing, and, this might end up being a new thing, and people might be like, well, I'd rather stay home and watch the show than go out to it.
Yeah, and if the concern is whether you're going to get sick or not, and I mean, you could probably even tie that in with VR, get a whole virtual reality experience where you maybe do feel like you're at a concert, but you're just at home. So yeah, that's a whole world of opportunities. It is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that it's still so uncertain, you know what I mean? And, my heart goes out to anybody in the live music venue or the bar and restaurant business, man, because, it's because that's all live venue is. It's a bar in a restaurant with, a PA system, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that's different. There's a couple other things different, but it's still the same thing. You're serving alcohol, you're serving food. So it's like, everyone is just, is laid off right now. And it's hard. It's hard for people right now. And, in a lot of people I work with, that's all they, that I worked with, this is what they did. They didn't do much other things. It's almost, when you've been serving in the restaurant business for a long period of time, it's not so much easy to go out and find another job doing something else. You know what I mean? You're kind of used to a certain way of life, nights, stuff like that. Your resume is pretty much an extensive, hospitality, management, rent, venue thing. It's not, I can just go get a desk job doing something. You know what I mean? It's not the same, references work experience. So, and musicians, musicians, they still, the bigger ones, they still making money off their music,
right?
Streaming, stuff like that, selling it. But the up and coming musicians, they rely on shows,
right,
to build their fan base and, make a little money selling, maybe a little money performing, or maybe a little bit of money selling some merch, and so they rely on that. So
right.
It's tough for them too. You know what I mean? So it's there's no clear cut answer. It's people are, but a lot of people outside of this are in the same situation. So it's not like this is just happening to live music, but the event planning business is definitely to be determined.
Yeah.
To be determined.
A lot of businesses that are more like grassroots, like a lot of artists it's independent. You're supporting yourself, and in the just service industry, a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck, like you were saying. So the stability, as far as something like this, when you lose that, it's hard to. Oh God, hold on. Oh, so there's lost my train of thought for a second. We're back. The it's harder to support like a mom and pop business. So we're going to see like hardware stores going out of business, tire shops that you were in your town that just couldn't ride it out through this. So it definitely is crucial to support. I mean, the least we could do is in times like this, everyone's turning towards different forms of art. So that is one blessing I think artists do have in that regard. Unfortunately, not for the servers and anyone running the establishments, but you do have the options for people to be buying merchandise and things like that. So it definitely it's harder for things that aren't. You have corporations that they can ride this stuff out. They have bailouts and cash flow that it's obviously they're going to post losses, but it's better than dying completely. And that's what happens to smaller businesses. And I think like we'll probably see some local bars disappear after this. So it's disappointing, but I'm hoping this will be an opportunity for us to try to rebuild these things in more lasting ways. Like, cause I think with technology and we mentioned those live shows, we're going to be doing a lot of pivoting in terms of how we absorb our entertainment. So with or without venues, we'll probably still be watching art somehow. So I think finding a way to keep money going through that or business, a new form of business, it's something we'll probably have to look for, but people are changing their minds.
Sorry, I was looking away because I was trying to figure out a way to share it. So I'm Paul. I think I got it now.
No worries.
All right.
Hold on. Just want to make sure, it's live on Boston's. It popped up and said, share this. So I was like, all right.
There we go.
There you go.
So let me just do this so we can get it all running, yeah. Okay. All right, so now I've shared it on Leedz and I shared it on my personal. So hopefully we'll get a few more people checking in.
Awesome.
Perfect. Hello, the 6 of you. I think 3 of them are us. But
There's 6. We got 6 people now?
7. Oh, we're climbing.
Oh, all right. We're drawing a crowd.
Alexander's on there, so that's good. That's my boy.
Shout out to Alexander.
Yeah, big shout out. Yeah, if you want a shout out, hit up those comments.
Yeah. So, Leedz Edutainment has been around since 2004, right?
Yeah, that was my first. That was like my first Middle East show. I kind of consider that to be when I had done a couple little shows at All Asia in 2003, but I just kind of didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah. So how'd you get into the
I mean, I was a hip hop head first.
Yeah.
I've been listening to hip hop since 1992.
Okay.
So it's like, I had friends that my age that were listening to it before that even,
Yeah.
shout out Peter Parker and a few other friends in high school. And that was just I've been diehard since then. So what's that?
Yeah.
That's almost 30 years.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think of music as, I was a fan, all through high school and stuff like that. And then college, I became a DJ. And then after the first school I went to after that, I decided I want to get into business. So then I went to Northeastern to go to the music industry program, got into that. And then my last year of college there, I interned for a company, Metro Concepts, who was a guerrilla marketing company at the time. Basically, you would hire these guys to promote your independent albums or whatever you were promoting. They would the street team. This is all before social media,
Right?
So it was all like hand-to-hand flyers, retail placements, record pools. Working with the local radio stations at the time, 88.9, and jamming. I think even you did a couple things.
Okay.
Working with the DJs there to try to get songs played and promoted and marketed, and getting publicity in the papers and stuff like that. And that was pretty much how you did it back then. But the problem is the Napster and the Audio Galaxy and all that downloading stuff just leveled out the whole record labels. So they weren't hiring that company anymore, and that company went out of business. But that company did promote shows as well as a form of marketing at the Middle East. So I would go to shows there and hand out flyers and do all sorts of things. And then I just decided I was going to throw shows because that was where the opportunity was, and no one really wanted to do it. Everyone told me it was the worst job you could do in the music business. Don't do it, and all this, that, and the third. But I was in my early 20s, and I was like, screw it. What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
And started throwing shows in 2004. And
so what was the first big show?
I threw my first show I did was pretty big. It was for me at the time. It was Royce the 5'9".
Yeah, that's big.
Cunnilinguist, Tone Deaf, and
Okay.
Who else was on that? Juice was I don't know if you know Juice, but he was the battle MC. He's the only one that they say beat Eminem in a battle. I don't know. That's up to debate. It's up to debate. What?
Is there video?
I think there is. I don't know.
Okay.
I never saw it, but he was an excellent battle rapper. Off the tape, incredible. So he was on the show. Just a real good underground hip hop.
Yeah,
show.
no, I know Tone Deaf and Cunnilinguist, and Yeah, no, that's good stuff.
And then Jake the Snake was the local act on that.
Oh, yeah.
He changed his name to J the S.
Yep.
He's out in California now, but he was the one local act on this show. And it was hosted by Peter Parker, and it was hosted by Ed O.G.
Oh, nice.
So that was my first big one, and I thought that, after that show that I'd be all set and, I'd have a bunch of money, and then I'd be, on my way, that I had made it, and I wouldn't have to work a regular job anymore. And when the night was over, I was down about $3,000. I lost $3,000 on the show.
Wow.
Had to pick up more hours at my day job, and that was pretty much the beginning of it. And then for some reason, I was like, let me try that again.
Yeah. So what did you learn from that first experience in losing that money? And
well,
what
I
did
learned,
you gain from that?
I think it was just how to gauge an artist, how to try to figure out how much you have as a talent buyer or promoter. A promoter is basically a talent buyer who has to promote his own shows, and that's what a promoter is. When you work for a corporation like Live Nation or Bowery, you're just a talent buyer. They have a marketing department that promotes the show, a machine that does it. But a promoter technically is an independent, all-in-one type of person. So as a promoter, you have to kind of figure out what an artist is worth. What's their fan base? How many people are coming to your show? That's a very difficult thing to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fan in you and the fan in me at that time was like, Royce the 5'9" is selling out the Middle East. He's big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't the case. And not that, and I was green at the time. So, my promotion skills were not what they are now. You know what I mean? So, I probably didn't promote that show. It's not all Royce's fault. I just started out,
Right.
But it's just kind of learning how to gauge how many people are going to come out, and in the resources you have to figure that out. Now we have a lot more resources. Back then, you did not have a lot of resources.
Right.
It was kind of like, you know what I mean? Like how, like think about it. There's no social media.
Right. So how do you gauge now how many fans someone's going to bring out?
Well, it still is there's a lot of things, because you can look at someone's social media and the numbers could be through the roof.
Yeah.
But are those fake?
Right. You never know. You never know.
You know,
right.
Are those old fans that don't care anymore?
Yeah.
What's the reason? Like sometimes a lot of artists, they're just known as for, antics.
Right.
Not necessarily the music.
They're bigger on social media than they are musically.
Or they might just have a big single, and
right.
you're like, I've seen acts that are like huge single, huge following, like huge
right.
fans and all this. And then, they could do a show and there's 30, 40 people there.
Wow.
The single route doesn't necessarily mean you have a fan base. It just means you have a hot single, but you don't really got a body of work to really build a fan base. And those singles, they get forgotten pretty quick.
Right.
And so it's tough, man. I mean, I still, like, I got it down pretty good, but I don't got it like you'd think I got it. I still overshoot it sometimes, and I undershoot it. And that's the problem. If you undershoot it, you might not get the show. So it's like you can't just lowball every artist and say, well, I don't think it's going to do that well. And then I'll just be like, well, I'm going to go to this other promoter here, and they're going to give me the money I think I deserve. So it's like, again, you got to like negotiation. You got to learn how to push and pull, and
right.
when to swing for the fences and when not to. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. I imagine it's sort of a sliding scale when it comes to like, so promotion in the industry, like you mentioned, when it comes to like flyers and radio stations and having connections there, and versus now social media, it's sort of you're kind of learning on the fly all the time. So there's never like a manual to say this is how it's done at this second, and it will always be this way. So it's definitely, I'd say, it's wise to say like, oh, I don't have this mastered, because it's always changing. Even the way social media has worked in the past 10 years, it's changed significantly how you market things. So, I mean, you're seeing songs shortened because it's about streams now, not really about like whether you like the song. So it's the strategy it shifts. So you're looking for like clicks and things like that. So it's I'm sure you never know how to make it work, but the best guess is some you can get familiar with, and you've clearly made your way. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for social media, because I tell you, like, promoting shows before it was very difficult. Okay, because you had to get out the house,
right,
and be in the snow and be in the rain outside a show handing out flyers.
And you're probably not going to reach as many people as you would on social media.
No, you're not.
You're not.
And there's a grueling, grueling process, man. Like, when you're, I was younger back then. So like in my 20s, it was a lot easier, but like going now, like with all as you get older, more responsibilities and doing that, it'd be hard. It'd be friggin' hard. And I think about the people that used to book shows before the internet. Like, think about that. Even,
right.
Which was for years, right? It was just telephone, like, thousands and thousands and $1,000 telephone bills. It's like, oh, I got the show, blah, blah, blah. You got, again, what are you using for information?
Yeah.
So it's like, this business has benefited, but now I think now, because people are sometimes getting a decent following on social media pretty quick, or with the streaming and stuff like that, people think, kind of jump the gun with shows a little bit. Like, they'll go on, they'll tour a little prematurely until figuring it out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes they're like, oh, it looks like I got a little fan base, so I'm ready to go. And then agents and other people will just be like, push them to go out to try to make some money. It's too early. I'm seeing that happen a little bit now.
Yeah.
That, people going out a little too premature before the fan base is built up big enough. Because it's benefiting nobody to go out, and I say this to all you local artists out there, it is not beneficial to travel all the way across wherever just to play a show in front of 3 people. You're better off taking that energy and putting it into something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes, it does happen. It's going to happen, yes. But if you're consistently like, I got to get out of state to play and I get to win, yeah, you do. But if you're performing in front of nobody, then you're better off like spend that money in the studio and make the song better.
So just on that point, definitely makes sense. You want to be conserving your resources when you have them, and you want to build up locally if you can. But I'm just curious, is there something to be said for if you did all these 3-person shows and sort of wasted your time a little bit making relationships at these different venues, and then maybe that opens an opportunity to get a show when there is a bigger artist, and that does sort of give them exposure. I'm curious, does that ever work? I guess as far as like networking to different states, or am I just sort of like out of place in thinking that?
No, I mean it's not bad to get connections. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't need to necessarily drive across the country to get the contact info for the club.
Right.
Okay.
And you got to remember, these clubs are not going to care for the most part unless they really. Sorry, here.
No worries.
Okay. Peter Parker was just calling me, so shout out to him if he's checking in. But anyways, these clubs are not. Most clubs don't give a shit unless you're bringing people to the venue. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, unless they really believe in your music, and it does happen. I really believe in some artists that are really on the come up right now. Might not necessarily bring a lot of people, but I believe in them, believe in their music. I support them. I like their music. Yeah, that's me. But I'm not everybody, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they just want to see numbers. And when you're in this business of venues, it's a tough business. So there's not really a lot of room for failure. You know what I mean? So, like, all I'm saying is you don't necessarily need to drive across the country to make those connections to play a show. You build it up in your hometown and slowly expand. And if you have an opportunity to play out of state, yeah, but don't break the bank doing it. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
We good?
Yeah, I think so. So when are there any local artists, like you were saying, that you believe in? Would you particularly try to pair them up with a bigger artist to get that exposure?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically what I did for a lot of artists I worked with. That was the process. It was like I also managed artists and stuff like that. More so in the beginning. I'm getting kind of back to that now again. But in the beginning, yeah, I mean, Slane, was one of the first local artists that I worked with, and I put him on shows that he fit to build his fan base up. And back then, like I said, it was even more important to do that because right around that time, like MySpace was just kind of kicking off.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, but him playing those shows, like he played a show opening up, I forget for who. That's how we kind of built up his fan base. He opened up for a bunch of different people. And then one of those shows he opened up for, the next day got a write-up in the Herald. Wow. Ben Affleck saw the Herald thing and then contacted him, saw the Herald article, then contacted him, and then he's in Gone Baby Gone.
Yeah.
So, like, you can see
and then
how –
The Town.
Yeah, then The Town, and then a bunch of other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can see how – but that – I'm not saying trying to take complete responsibility for it, but you can see how that line worked.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
And then with other artists I managed, it was the same thing. It's like, how do I put the right artist opening up for the right, so the fan base makes sense, because I've also made the mistake of like putting up an opening artist on a show where it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
With the fan base, and it didn't get a good reaction, and everybody was pissed. So it's like,
what's an example of that? What
I'd rather
artist
not
was
say
it?
names.
Okay.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
All right.
That's fair.
No worries.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you know that's happened. But
Yeah.
nowadays though, I don't really make that mistake. I take the curating very serious, and I want the right acts on the right bill. I don't really care much about anything else when it comes to that. I just want the music to be good and to fit. You know,
Yeah.
in the past I didn't do that. Now we'll see what happens in the future. But for the last like year or two, I made sure like if you're opening up, it's the right fit.
Right.
So.
Have you found that like headlining artists kind of have preferences as far as the type of artist they want opening for them?
Well, that's the other tricky thing these days too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like back in the day there was a lot more freedom in what I could do with that as far as like opening acts. Now, you know, a lot of times the headliners, they bring in their own people. They're bringing their own people, and then so yeah, the headliners are bringing their own support, and they have to approve anybody opening up.
Yeah.
Which I understand, you know what I mean? But sometimes there's delays in that process. It takes forever. You know, they didn't get around to proving it in time. The artist that I wanted now has something else going on. You know, that happens, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. I still, you know, sometimes I got to really kind of push it, you know, like sell the opening act or the local support.
Right.
Is a real benefit to the show, you know? So yeah, pretty much.
So have you ever had any examples of a headliner and an opener that didn't necessarily mesh in style, but it did end up working out, and perhaps they ended up like working together in the future? That might be a one-off situation, but in my mind, I feel that trying to cross-pollinate fan bases would be a good idea. But I can see how
In certain cases, maybe.
and I can see how though, like when it comes to a one-night show, people might not be ready to warm up to another style. So I don't know if that's just like a hard rule, or if there's ever styles that do have the possibility of meshing and it does sort of work out.
Yeah, I mean, it has been done, and I have done it. You know what I mean? It's just it depends on the fan base, but you know, I don't like to risk it. You know what I mean? There's so many artists in Boston looking for in New England looking for opportunities that I'd rather not risk it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'd rather not risk. If there's limited opportunities, I don't want to risk someone getting on there and it not working. I want if we're gonna get someone on there now, let's make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't think of any off the top of my head where it was like really different. And I've fused like hip hop and rock genres and stuff like that. I've done that a bunch of times. That works depending on the type of hip hop. But you know, I think certain type of hip hop needs certain type of hip hop is so many different subgenres within it now. So it's like you got to kind of keep it fitting. So it's the most beneficial to everybody involved. So,
right.
But yeah, it can work. It can work, but it's not. You know, there's also some type of shows where it doesn't matter if it's the perfect fit or not. They don't give a crap about the opening artist. You know what I mean? Like, that happens all the time, unfortunately.
Who are some of your favorite up and coming artists in New England right now?
Oh man, you're gonna throw me under the bus for that one. Let me pull out. You know, it's so funny because let me pull out my list here.
All right.
Just because I'm not gonna remember it off the top of my head.
No, you're always gonna forget someone.
I had to write it all down because there's so many.
Yeah. No, I know. It's crazy. I see you've been updating the Leedz list.
Yep. Yeah, the Leedz list on Spotify, I keep that going with underground hip-hop and New England hip-hop. Originally, it was just New England hip-hop, but there wasn't enough releases. I wanted to keep it fresh. Plus, there was a lot of people outside of Boston and New England doing great stuff. They get no credit.
Right.
So I just kind of wanted to create a platform that would benefit
it's a dope
everybody.
playlist.
Thank you. Let's see here. Where we at? Yeah, because I had to make a list because of this whole opening act thing. I was like, local support thing. I was like, I need it because I keep forgetting people. So So yeah, just a few names here. You know, I like Hero is dope.
Hero, yep.
Baron is dope. He's more alternative. He's one of these crossover artists that play like a pop punk show and then like an emo show and do a hip hop certain type of trap hip hop show. He's dope.
Nice.
See who we got here. We got my boy Problematic.
Problematic, yep. I see you posting about him a lot. He's fire.
Yeah. Well, I have to shout him out or he's gonna punch me. Let's see. Eastside Sheesh, he's dope.
Yep.
He's dope. Chemic, they're dope. Crispy D in New Hampshire.
Crispy D, yeah. I've been listening to him a little bit recently.
Yeah. C Spring, he's dope.
Yep.
JU, dope. J
JU,
Faith,
yep.
J Faith, dope.
J Faith.
Cynical.
Yeah.
Najee Johnny.
He's dope. We saw him at the Boston Music Awards.
Yeah. Let's see who else we got here. Obviously G Dot and Born, Easy Money, Terminology.
Yeah.
Terminology is still up and coming, I don't think, so he's probably established by now. Let's see. So is Easy Money. ST Knack, he's doing his thing.
Yeah, ST Knack's doing big things.
Lateb,
shout out Lateb.
Yeah.
And Oblivious.
That's right. You guys the South Shore, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Lateb, South
Yeah,
Shore.
we had them on the podcast before. Lateb and Oblivious.
Yeah,
yep.
Oblivious. Well, Casso,
yep.
Casso. I mean, there's so many more. Like,
yeah, it's too many to name, really.
It really is. I mean, I feel like if I don't, I'm supposed to shout out everybody else I didn't name because the list is huge. I'm just shouting out names that are jumping out at me first.
Right.
But that was the point of the Leedz list. That was the point of me trying to do the Leedz locale. I mean, I was trying to create a avenue for people to just get out there, because it's hard. It's very hard.
Right.
Extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. Some people pull it off and it's unexplainable. Some people put so much effort and so much time and so much stuff and it still doesn't work. Some things are just tough to explain. But either way.
What do you think the reason for that is if someone's putting in effort and it's not getting the results? Like,
sometimes
it's a tough question.
Sometimes it's political. Sometimes it's lack of finances, because
there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Lack of time, there's lack of
resources.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things, or luckily, now we're seeing a time where there isn't so many gatekeepers, right? So there's not someone saying, you're not good enough. You're good enough. Right. You're cool. Screw you. You know what I mean? There's none of that.
People can do it on their own kind of more now though. Yeah. They don't need approval.
DIY is available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have a phone with a camera and a camcorder. You can document whatever you want, put out whatever you want. Still gonna have to probably spend a little bit of money because everything costs money, but not a huge amount. Not like you needed like $20,000 anymore to fucking put out an album.
Yeah.
Hold on, sorry. Yeah, so it's like you can do it. It's baby steps. You know what I mean? It's like small little steps, and marketing and using these tools can get you far, man. It will get you far. Let's just say this: you kind of have to do it. The only ones that don't have to do it, the ones that are already established, they got their fan bases, and they don't need to do as much. But if you coming up, get ready to work.
Right.
You think the fans are just going to come to you because you make a song, then reality is coming.
Yeah. No, you have to market your personality too. It's like people have to like you as a person. It's like you kind of have to build your image on social media and stuff. It's like a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's branding.
Right.
But the music still has to be good.
Oh, like, of course.
If the music is unlistenable, none of the work is worth it.
Right.
Like, I'd rather someone spend time and the money in the studio to get the song right than spend all this extra money trying to promote all this stuff.
Right.
It's not going to matter. Because at the end of the day, the most effective tool is someone sharing your song to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So if like you're a fan of the music I made, and you're like showing it to all your boys, like, yo, you gotta listen to this, you gotta listen to this. That is the most effective and affordable tool of anything.
Absolutely.
But that comes from the music being good.
Right.
So that's my theory behind that.
Yeah, that's why those like the Leedz lists and making playlists like that is so important, because people are looking for the next thing to listen to, and so if you can kind of guide them in the right direction, and bring some light to some of these artists that deserve more credit, that's definitely a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always been kind of an underground guy, right?
Yeah.
Like I came up listening to mainstream hip hop, but 90s mainstream hip hop was different animal than what it is now.
Right.
So you're talking about whatever was mainstream was really like would be considered probably underground now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
the only place you're gonna find music like that now is underground. So,
like to me, like what I listened to, what I came up listening to, all the stuff I love, that sound still exists. It's just underground.
It's just underground, right?
Yeah. So to me, that's like, and it's just something I've never been after like, the 90s, like never really been a mainstream guy, period. Hip hop back then, even though it was mainstream like popular, it still wasn't like mainstream in pop culture. Wu-Tang was never a pop act.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Gangstar never a pop act,
Right.
Dr. Dre, all that stuff, that was huge mainstream, became mainstream, but it was never regionally that, at first. But like, I've never been that type of guy. So what's popular on the radio or what's popular nowadays when I go on iTunes and whatever, it's just like the new release section is just it's like all trap, all like mainstream, recycled.
All sounds the same. Yeah.
Not what my definition of hip hop is. Now, what you're someone that likes that might think this is to me that's rap music, whatever. But to me, that's not the sound I like.
Right.
So I try to focus on the underground who's still doing it, pushing it, and I find that is what I like to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I confession, I was kind of like stuck in the mainstream for a long time, and there's probably even a point where I said like, I've just heard every song, like I know all the music now. I probably thought like I just knew of every artist, but then Jack would be showing me these lists of like hundreds of people and thousands of songs, and I was like, things that are really good, and it's quality production, and things that people that are, I'm like, oh, who's this? Someone from Boston. I'm like, what? This guy's in Boston. I didn't even realize. And it sounds so full and quality, and like you just don't. I think it's something that people like shiny objects. So if you see someone with 1 million followers, you want to know why they have 1 million followers, so you go and watch that. But it's a lot less likely for some reason for people to go seek out diamonds in the rough. Like you want to see.
It's a lot less like people will see that you only have 3,000 followers and they won't even listen to your song.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, music, so it's also just so much of it now that it's just so easy to dismiss, right? So it's like, you put out a song, who cares?
Right. So did 1 million other people today, Right.
That was the other thing back in the 90s, like, it wasn't as much. So you had to be really good to get a deal because the amount of money that would go behind you to get it out, like, you had to have talent or you getting shelved. What we saw when it became more DIY is more, people could easily get it out there. So like in the early 2000s, you started seeing an influx of rappers. And now it's even more, with all these tools. So it's like quality to me at this point is what really matters.
Right.
So, and then you still gotta market it correctly too, though. Like I see a lot of mistakes, and where I'm kind of going with the business now is working with artists to try to market the music more properly, because I see it time and time again. I see a lot of people just like, here's my new album, it's out.
Yeah.
No lead up, no promotion, just here you go.
Right.
And I get that, but at the same time, that's not necessarily
That's not the best way to do it. Yeah.
4 days later, no one knows what the hell, forgotten. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Everything you just did to make that album, pretty much forgotten. And now it's on you to promote the hell out of it. Now, if you still want to or not, I see a lot of people just say, well, I'm on to the next.
Right.
It's like, well, what did you just do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how are you marketing shit? Video, singles, it's content. What are you doing? Being creative to make. Why should I care about your release? Right?
Right.
Why? Because you rap? It's not enough. Everyone raps.
Everyone raps. Yeah.
Everyone raps. Everyone's got a good story. Yeah, it is hard to be original sometimes, or to just be noticed. Sometimes you have a good story, and it's not always people aren't going to know that until they actually listen to your music. It does take quality marketing to get people out there.
And what we also saw with the whole DIY scene is people kind of not taking production serious enough. So, like, people don't also realize sometimes that hip hop is not just about the rapping. Okay,
Right.
It's about the beat. Okay, the production of the beat. That was what made it also great. It was a 50-50 split.
Right.
If the beat wasn't great, the raps get dismissed. And so often we see good rappers picking terrible beats because they're either cheap, free, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is hurting. That killed a lot of people from my generation. They picked terrible beats, you know. Once they got out of that major label deal, it was like back to picking bad production. I've seen so rappers survive just because they've been able to pick really good beats.
Yeah.
Whereas the other way around, if you're a really good rapper and you pick a crappy beat, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have the staying power.
And
some people are just that good that they can overpower anything, but that's few and far between.
Right.
Exactly. I think it has a lot to do in that case. It sounds like producers trying to get what they're worth. And I can't knock them for that. I've praised producers many times on this podcast. I think producers really do kind of make the whole that industry go around. It's really hard to have a good hip hop song without a good beat. And like you're saying, some good rappers might sacrifice that beat because maybe some producers quoting him way too much on a beat that he thinks that, hey, we've been working together. Maybe this should be more of a mutual thing.
Right.
And that goes back to you, whether you believe in someone or not. And I think some producers do that, and you get people, they'll just bring you up as an artist with their, like, you'll work together and it comes up a lot more organically. And I have said this also in the past, I think it is short-sighted try to upcharge people in the beginning, especially if you're within, I would say, 5 years. Like if you're not making a steady salary already, you can't really quote your price when you're that young, unless you're modeling yourself off of somebody else. So it is, it's beneficial for everybody to work with everybody. So if you're putting out quality beats, don't just say this beat's $500, no questions asked. You can't try to bargain with me. And like no one's going to end up buying it if you're just someone in your basement, even if it's the best beat ever. So it definitely takes some, I mean, you kind of have it give and take on both sides. You have to be ready to work with people.
It's tough, man. I think like every scenario is different. You know, money can there's so much financial insecurity in the hip hop game. You know, everyone's just struggling to get by. And, you know, most people in the music business really struggling to come up and make a living. And you know, it's really hard. So it's like you have people, you know, trying to defend their worth versus people trying to make moves. And it's really hard. I think if you can find a realistic price that you can get paid on a consistent basis, you're probably in a good place. If you're one of these people that wants to just try to get as much as you can every moment and lose business because of that, I don't know if that's necessarily always a good deal, unless you just don't want to work with the person. You know what I mean? Which is what a lot of people do. They'll just be like, "Oh, my beat's $5,000," and then be like, "Well, that's just me trying to say I don't want to work with you." You know what I mean? Like, but if you want to consistently make a living, just be reasonable with your pricing. You know, if people think it's worth it, they'll pay for it. You know what I mean? If they get a good experience out of it, they'll pay for it. You know, but like, every scenario is different. I don't want to speak for every producer or MC out there trying to sell their beats or their verses or whatnot. But if you are a good MC and you got a good beat, you know, both people will benefit from it. If you're a good producer with a good MC on your beat, you both benefit because the song will carry more and get you more exposure. So maybe you didn't make as much selling it, but maybe that beat carries more. And everyone's got a certain budget. Some people have more money to play with than others, you know? So I think the producers I've seen do well, just kind of work with people's budgets and they find a way to make it work, you know? So being open-minded though, you know what I mean? Because it does take a community to make this thing work.
That is true. So speaking of communities, how often you must see a lot of artists using similar or the same DJ circles, right? So you're probably getting a lot more similar DJs than artists, I imagine, or is that?
What do you mean?
Does each artist have a personal DJ, or do some artists use the same DJ? So you're going to be seeing you see maybe a DJ more often than you'd see an artist. If that just
well, I guess I would see
I
would see the DJs probably. I would see DJs more frequently. There's less of them these days. Shout out Slipwax. Shout out PVK.
Slipwax.
I'm forgetting a few here, but you know, there's a few others in there. But yeah, that's a dying art form. You know what I mean? That needs to be resurrected, please.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a lot to be done with the boards. I guess it's not exactly the same as turntables anymore, but yeah, it is definitely, there's still an art form to it. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all good. I mean, hold on, sorry, screwed up. Yeah, I mean, when I was a DJ, when I had turntables, techniques, there's a lot of DJs back then.
Yeah,
a lot of DJs, and to the point where I was like, yo. I don't think I can. I don't think I'm going to be able to be a DJ and compete with these guys. And I ain't as good as them. You know what I mean? I could spend hours practicing in my basement, but I don't know. Still, then I don't think. You know, I didn't think that I could be good enough to hang with some of these dudes. Like like Scratch Pickles and Primo and these dudes. I just didn't have it like that. You needed to have it like that back then because no one would take you serious unless my mixtape game was good, but not like those guys. But now I'd be hard to name 5, you know?
What do you think the reason for that is?
Well, I think artists stopped needing them or stopped thinking they didn't need them. They were just like, I'll just play my, push play in the back.
Yeah.
And then people didn't want as much scratching on their albums.
Right.
So it was like, and then the mixtape game is kind of done. So now it's all playlists. You don't need a DJ for that.
Yeah.
So there's the DJ still exists on the radio and the mix shows and stuff like that, but they're few and far between. And then there's the club DJs. There's probably a bunch of those out there just playing music at clubs, but are they down there? They're not necessarily turntablists. You know what I mean? They might be rocking a party or whatnot, or they just person play. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of DJs up there just pushing buttons.
Yeah.
And the skill level has gone down.
Yeah, so. And I think so. I guess this is more of an EDM route, but I have seen.
Shout out Problematic. He just posted something. If I don't shout him out, he's gonna punch me. So
yeah, shout out Problematic.
Shout out Problematic. I'm not trying to get punched either.
New single out now. Is there a problem?
New single. All right.
It's a banger.
Word.
Peep it.
But yeah, what were you saying?
So with all the different, there's like the Pioneer DJ, Tractor, everyone's got their own hardware for like virtual turntables. So you can set up, it gets infinitely more complex you can put effects. You can take sections of songs that have the same tempo and maybe it's in the same key. But that requires deep understanding of music that I've seen the surface scratched of before. I've seen someone kind of explaining to me like, look, I got these 2 songs running simultaneously. And as the hook comes for this one, I'm going to layer in like the other song. And it definitely gets complex. Despite the fact you're just working with 2 existing songs. So you have to you're layering just through prior knowledge of music. So it is kind of hard to just jump into that. And it's immense practice. I mean, that's like a 20,000 hours to perfect probably. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing too, because that's basically called mixing. You just mix in 2 records with the BPMs, and that's actually what I really loved about DJing when I did it. I liked scratching and all that, but the blending of 2 records into each other, I love that. But But to do that, you have to know the BPMs of each record, right? The BPMs have to, like, you know, you got to know each one and be able to time them, you know, get the BPMs at the same pace that they blend together. Some people just have an ear for that.
Yes.
I necessarily didn't have a great ear for that. I kind of needed to count them. But the DJ, again, some of the DJs I was around, man, like, they could do that by ear. Right.
Wow.
And you realize how difficult that is sometimes. If you got one beat going like this and another beat going like this, and just figuring out, you know, if you're off a millisecond or anything, you can tell. So it can. Some people just got it, man. I'm telling you, man. And I wasn't that guy that just got it. You know, so that was kind of like, all right, let me figure out how I can also diversify my skills.
Right.
But yeah, shout out all the DJs that can mix by ear.
Yeah, it's
great.
And being able to understand pitch. I mean, something that I think you can learn. But yeah, like, some people are just born with that. It's
some people are born with it. Definitely.
Shout out Alex Sennett, Berkeley musician.
Big shout out.
Yeah, shout out Justin Clancy. I believe he's pitch perfect. How could he not be?
Shout out Justin Clancy too.
Big old Clancy.
Yep.
Yeah. Big things.
Yeah, you put on a lot of his shows, right?
I'm surprised you guys are shouting out a North Shore artist.
Oh yeah,
that's the homie. Shore. That's the homie.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
you put on a bunch of his shows, right?
Unfortunately, I did. Yeah. Hope he heard that. Nah, he's Clancy is a very talented artist. I've seen him come a long way. He's you know, when he first was out, he was a pain in the ass. He's still a pain in the ass, but he was even more of a pain in the ass. Coming backstage, acting like he owned a place, didn't even know who he was, and you know, he kind of came into like a new style and stuff like that. He's singing. You know, when I first met him, I didn't know he sang at all. Like, just rapped. He was just like a white rapper.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
ever since TV Dinner, he's kind of just changed his lane. Yeah.
That was the big change, and it's been going more in that direction too, you know.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's good to see him. He's out in LA doing his thing, trying to you know, make moves. So shout out Clancy.
Yep.
Big shouts.
I got probably about 15 minutes left I can do here. I don't know if there's anything else you want to specifically talk about.
I did have a question. If you could, in your recollection, what's the most memorable show that you've put on that you can think of?
Good or bad?
Memorable.
Let's go good. One good and one bad.
Well, one of the best shows I think I obviously did was Scarface show, and DMX and Swizz Beatz just showed up randomly.
That's awesome.
And came out and and performed songs, and then did this whole thing with DMX. This whole thing with Scarface. I mean,
that's fire. That's
Unbelievable,
fire.
yeah.
Was that? When was that?
Unplanned. Basically, Scarface came up to us. He was just like, "Yo, DMX and Swizz Beatz are coming."
Wow.
Been doing this for a long time, so you're always told, "Oh, so and so's coming." You know what I mean? Get ready. And it's like, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? But no, they actually came, and
and with DMX, you never know. He's been known to not show up to shows and stuff, and
I mean, he's just pure artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's like everything that comes with that, and but he's just such a powerful artist, man. Even like even like on stage, that short amount of time, it's just like this guy is he just knows how to connect with you,
right?
And connect as a human being, and so does Scarface. So they're both like very like connected to the human condition, whether it's good or it's bad.
Yeah.
So that was probably the best one.
Okay.
Worst show, Jim Jones.
Jim Jones. What year?
2011, 2012.
Okay.
Started a riot.
Oh, really?
He showed up mad late. His goons, and they just.
So it was just Jim Jones. He was the headliner.
Yeah, and like someone threw a solo cup on stage. We don't know if it was staged or not, but then he jumped in the crowd and started a fight. And then
oh my God.
Fights started breaking out everywhere, and the show got shut down, and it was just just whack. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Whack.
Yeah, that sounds pretty whack. Yeah. Man.
You know what my funniest story is? The craziest one is I did Anderson .Paak.
Okay.
And had no idea who he was and missed his set. He was
wow.
Was this like before he blew up?
Yeah, before anyone knew who he was. He was
okay. So you've done shows for artists, a couple artists or a few artists before they really blew up. Like
Anderson .Paak.
Anderson .Paak. Wiz Khalifa. Didn't you do one for Wiz Khalifa?
Wiz Khalifa was about to blow when I did the show.
About to blow. And Mac Miller.
They were all like, the trajectory was there. Like they were going, you know.
Right.
But Anderson .Paak, literally, I think he was just even drumming. I don't even know if he was even.
Oh, okay.
I like I said, I missed his set. I didn't know who he was. He was opening for this MC called Wax. Who was
Wax, we know Wax. Yep.
Yeah, Wax. That's right. You know Wax. He's but he was opening for Wax, and he was like first of four.
Yeah.
So I was like, I missed the whole set.
Wow.
I didn't know till later that I had done the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap. But that was kind of funny. That was like a funny experience. I look back, I'm just like, wow, I missed the set. Yeah, I did Kendrick Lamar. No one really knew who he was.
Yep. You did Mac Miller, right?
Mac Miller, everyone kind of knew who he was at that time. He was blowing up. We did one show, it sold out. We added a second. So that was like, that's right after you dropped Kids. So it was like.
Yeah, that's right when he was starting to blow, yeah.
Yeah, from there it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine Joyner Lucas too, right? Or was he?
Yeah, we did. Joyner Lucas. Joyner Lucas was an opening act on a few things. He opened for Hobson. He opened for Hobson, and then he opened for Hobson twice. That's right. Okay, so the first one he just opened, and I didn't really know who he was. And then the second one he opened, he was more established at that point. Token, and Joyner Lucas were on the Hobson tour, I believe. Was it Hobson? I'm pretty sure it's Hobson.
Yeah, I think I remember that a few years ago.
And this is when they were. This is when they were like starting to pick up steam.
Yeah.
As solo artists, and then from there it's on. And then I did Joyner Lucas. I co-promoted it with the Palladium, him headlining, and that did pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the nature of what I did in the Middle East was kind of always a starting point for a lot of artists.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of like you'd play the Middle East first, and then you go on to big things, and then depending on the decisions and the things you make, we might see you again on the way down. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
True. So, you know, it was a starting point and it was an ending point for a lot of people. And there was a lot of people that ended up, you know, at the Middle East, but they would always sell out and just stay there, you know, and which is the idea was to always consistently have the sold out show.
Right.
So, I mean, that's good too. So, I mean, the history of that venue, and I hope it can survive this. I really hope it can survive this thing, whether I work there or not, because the music scene needs an independent venue like that.
Yeah. No, the Middle East, we need the Middle East. We really do.
Yeah. You really
There's nothing like it around Boston.
I would not have existed without it as a promoter. I would not have been able to do anything. You know, Live Nation, they have their own people. AG, Bowery, their own people. Yeah. Unless you work for them, you're either in or you're out. So it's like a independent promoter. You know, without the independent venue, you know, there probably would have been no Leedz Edutainment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
I could say that it might have existed, but not in the context of that. You know.
Yeah.
So you know, it's more independent, but it's such a tough business though too. At the same time, like it's a tough balance. It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. That is definitely a lot of work. It's no off days, I guess.
I was the general manager for about a year, and it was probably the most chaotic year of my life.
Really? And that's like you're not just in charge of talent. Like that's going to be drink sales, you're getting merchandise, everything through the door, out the door. Like you're just general manager?
Merchandise is the artist's thing. The Middle East stays out of that.
Oh, okay.
Artists, they bring in their own merch. They make 100% to them. Whereas you go to a corporate venue, they take a cut. So one good thing about the Middle East. But the general manager job is kind of overseeing, because the Middle East is a big place. People forget how big it is. It's like 1,300 capacity if you add all those rooms together.
Wow.
And it's separated different, like a maze, right? So it's not just one room with 1,300 people. It's 5 different rooms with 5 different crews all moving at the same time in a crazy music drinking environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you basically maintaining chaos, and I had to kind of just make sure all the team players were there and work with each team and try to maintain it. But in the end, it was just too crazy. It was just too crazy.
So I guess you have moved on from the Middle East, but I am curious. So there's new venues in town, not going to be like the Middle East. It's not necessarily underground. Are you involved in at all with things going on? There's going to be something at the corner of Fenway, right across from like diagonal to the House of Blues.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff's all Live Nation. Unfortunately, this business is kind of going corporate, so you either work for them or you don't. You know what I mean? And that's why I keep stressing the importance of the Middle East. Like if I see myself as like a promoter being contracted to promote something. If someone has a show, they feel like Leeds could benefit helping them. Any hip hop show, which it would. I've worked with other venues necessarily. Like I've worked with Big Night, which is like part Live Nation, part Big Night, and I've done a couple shows. I did Busta Rhymes there, and but they just paid me to promote it. So I mean, I could see myself working in that capacity if they're interested, or other venues are interested. But as far as being like going back to just being the full-time promoter who buys the talent, takes all the risk, and does all that at this point in my career, like I don't really know if I want to put that kind of stress back on my plate. Actually, I know I don't want to put that kind of stress back on my plate. Yeah. That's kind of why I'm going in more about working more with the artists on the grassroots level of just trying to get the music right and kind of going that way with it. Artist development, marketing, digital marketing, social media strategy, stuff like that. I think that's kind of what's really more needed right now, because, if no one's listening to your songs, they ain't showing up to your shows.
Right.
And even if they do show up at your shows, they don't know any of the songs. So it's like people don't realize that sometimes. They just think like the reason people go to these concerts because they love the songs, they want to hear them live. If they're not, if they don't know your songs, they're not going to go.
Right.
So it's like I just want to help people kind of just get that stuff out there more and have it be done more effectively. Whether people love it or not, that's on them. But at least let's work on this process. So that's kind of where I'm going with everything right now. And so far, so good. So it's been working.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So I think we're coming up on your
I'm gonna have to run. I'm gonna have to run. But it's been great talking to you guys. You guys got a great
thing.
I
appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, we're probably gonna have to utilize some of your services. We're gonna need some social media help and everything. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, we're looking to put on a show eventually.
Yeah, I know you guys are trying to get into that, and any help that I can do or whatever, if you need help getting in touch with any certain artist or promoting anything, you guys let me know. I'm always down to, it takes people like us and a bunch of others, to make this work. So it needs everybody kind of doing something and creating lanes and opportunities for other people. So keep doing your thing. This is great, and I'm sure other people appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Really appreciate you coming on, sharing some information with us.
All right, guys. I gotta go, and you hit me up for anything, and I'm always around.
Perfect.
Thank you so
much.
All right, man. Later.